and welcome to another Fast Tracks webinar. This is a weekly event we do every Friday at 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, where we go over various topics of the Fast Track software. You can see a list of all these events on our website at goftx.com. Choose the FTX Lifeline tab at the top of the page. Wait for this page to load, scroll down just a bit and look for that big webinar button. Choose that. That will carry you to our webinar page, where you can register for upcoming Fast Tracks webinars and other Fast Tracks news, view a list of all of our upcoming webinars, as well as view recordings of our previous webinars. Today we're going to be going over a topic that has been recently updated in the most recent software update, POS flags. We're going to be touching on some of the new features that were added in specific to taxes. So I'm going to go to Director here. I'm going to be in our corporate mode director. And just to quickly review, if you want to get all the details on the previous topics we'd covered on POS flags, I'd suggest you watch that webinar. Just a quick review. The way taxing works in the system, of course, you're selling items. Well, an item is going to be associated to a department. Well, when you go to your departments in the maintenance module, when you view all your departments here, that department, whenever we select that full price pack department, that's associated to a POS flag. Well, then we'll go to our POS flags. We'll choose that POS flag. And then here we're going to see that POS flag is associated to a tax group. In the point of sale itself, I'm going to log in. I'm going to log into a user that has permission to actually view taxes. Under Actions, Management, and Taxes, I can choose the tax rates, and this is going to be the actual individual tax rates that I have set up. Now those tax groups we had seen that's associated to the POS flag, that is this screen here. I have my two tax groups. I can edit those tax groups or I can create new tax groups. And here's where I apply the rates within those groups. So just quickly remember, you have your item that's associated to your department, that's associated to a POS flag, that's associated to a tax group, that's associated to tax rates. That's how at the time of sale, when you ring an item up, the appropriate taxes are applied. So let's go back to Director here. And we're looking at our POS flags. So the first thing that's going to be new is going to be the store exceptions hyperlink here. Now, let's say we have a situation where we have multiple stores and we have one store that is in one state and another store that's in another state. And of course, taxes are different everywhere. Well, in this specific scenario, let's say that on our grocery items, like our candy and gum and our snacks, let's say that in one state it's taxable and in the other state it's not taxable. Well, previously there would have been a problem with that. That's because I can only have one POS flag associated to a department, and that one POS flag can only have one tax group. There was no real way to handle that cleanly. Well, now there's a store exceptions hyperlink. What this does is whenever you choose this, you actually can choose specific stores that is for this POS flag and assign a different tax group. So in this scenario that I just brought up, let's say that our store 1, that department is taxable, and our store 2, that department is not taxable. Well, if I look at that department, we can see what flag that's using. That's using the taxable flag. So if I go to my POS flags here and I go to the taxable flag, I can go to my store exceptions. I can choose add exception just for store 2, and that's going to be non-taxable. When I save that, and then I save my POS flag, that would then, of course, go to the queue, and then the queue would send that down to the store. Now at the store level, it's going to look a bit different than it would at corporate mode, because all you're going to see is the taxable POS flag, and at store level is going to show the non-taxable tax group. That's because the store wouldn't know any different. There's no reason for it to know any different. It doesn't need to know or care how other stores in other states are taxed. It just cares about how it is locally. So due to this new capability, you can now have multiple tax groups on the same POS flag, and now that can be done appropriately at multiple locations. You can have one store exception, or you can have every store in an exception. There's no limit to that. If you ever want to change that, just simply choose the edit, change to a different tax group, or create a new tax group, and then add the new tax group. And if you want to remove it, just simply delete it. After you make those changes, be sure you choose the Save button, go to your queue, and then send that down. Okay, so going back to our POS flags, the next thing that is new is this flat tax option. So how the flat tax actually works. This is going to be just a flat tax amount that does not care about the subtotal or the items on the transaction. It's applying just a flat, solid tax rate. So for example, if I choose the apply flat tax rate and I have 25 cents on store one, well, I'm actually in store one now. In the point of sale, when I ring a transaction up, let's first look at the tax rate so we can do the math here. I've simply got a 10% tax rate. If we look at the item I'm going to be ringing up, it's for a flat $10. So that tells us just between those tax rates and the price of the item, it's going to be $11. 10% of that $10 is $1 tax. Well, if I have that flat tax of 25 cents on there, then my subtotal should be, after taxes applied, including the flat tax, $11.25. So I'll ring this item up. I'll get my uplift prompt here. If you are not aware of uplifts, I would highly recommend that you watch one of our multiple uplift webinars. Get all the details on that. It's a very, very powerful sales tool that if you're not utilizing, you're definitely missing out on. And then there's my subtotal, $11.25. So that's how the flat tax actually works. You simply assign that flat tax amount to the POS flag, and then you assign the stores that flat tax amount. So not every store has to have a flat tax. You can have this flag applying to a flat tax to every location, but one if that's necessary. So finally, we're going to go over something that it wasn't just changed recently, it was changed a couple updates ago with this age required field. This is going to be a way to simply put, allow in a corporate environment, stores and areas that have different age requirements to be handled appropriately. First and foremost, this is only a corporate mode function. There's no need for this in a store mode or single store environment because you set the age requirement as necessary, and that's all that really matters. So let's say that I have these two stores in place. And in this store, in store one, my tobacco is 19 and my e-cig is 21, lottery is 18. Let's just leave it like this. I'll save that. Tobacco, of course, will be 19. At store two, let's make that tobacco is 18. Well, before, on my POS flags, if I had like I'll go to my full price pack here. If I have my taxable tobacco in place and I go and look at that, and that was set to a manual as it is in 18, that means that both stores are going to be requiring age 18. What I would want to do in this scenario, since they're different age requirements, would be to actually change this age required to tobacco and then save that. Whenever I do that, it's now going to, whenever you're sending this down from corporate, it's going to look at the POS flag, look at the store. It's going to see that POS flag is set to tobacco for the store, that flag. Look to the store, get that age required, add that to that same POS flag record, and then send it down to the store. So at store level, whenever you view that same POS flag, for all intent and purposes, the store doesn't know what corporate's done. all they see is that their taxable tobacco flag is set for manual at 18. They're not going to know that corporate has them set up anything differently. So that's the quick way and the simple way to make sure that if there's different age requirements at different locations, simply input your ages on your stores individually or by mass using the mass change tool, and then set your POS flag appropriately to pull from a tobacco or other or e-cig or alcohol field. Now, as a note, if you do set the POS flag to pull from one of those fields other than manual, then every store needs to have an age input. You can't have a store that does not have an age input for that particular category. That's very, very important. Okay, so I hope everybody learned something new today. Once again, these webinars are every Friday at 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern. You can see a list of these if you go to our website, goftx.com. Choose the FTX Lifeline tab. Look for that big webinar button. Choose that, and that will show you a list of our webinars that are upcoming that you can register for. All of our previous webinars that have the recording saved, and you can view those recordings at any time, as well as sign up for the newsletter to get notified of upcoming webinars and other Fast Tracks news. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, let us know at websupport@fasttrackspos.com. If you have any suggestions for future webinars, let us know at info@goftx.com. Thank you and have a great weekend.